Welcome, all fellow wannabes. Welcome to the show. You are listening to Game Club from Wannabe Critic Productions. I am one of your hosts, Gabriel Fast, and joining me is Age of Geek Productions' own Ethan Maestri. Ethan, how are you feeling this evening?
Feeling fine, ready to talk about the next chapter.
I know, dude. It's one of those things like we recorded the first episode a long time ago, and the way we do Game Club, it's very much in the geekly bi-weekly fashion of yesteryear where, there's a lot going on and I just want to make sure everything's right. And I take forever, apparently, to get through games, because I'm always playing like 3 at a time. But here we are. We're recording Mass Effect 2. And, I'm happy. I'm happy to be talking about this finally with you. So, how long was it? And I have to ask, was there a slight irritation? It's like, God, Gabe is taking forever to finish this game. How long did you have the game finished before I actually finished it?
My last play, I went back the other night to look, and it was August 29th. Was the last day I've played it. So we're almost a month. We're almost a month since I finished Mass Effect 2. Yeah.
You literally had to wait a month to really start diving into Mass Effect 3.
Yeah, and I put 26 hours into that game, but I did it in a week and a half. I mean, it was ridiculous how quickly and how deeply it just sucked me right in.
Yeah, I had a similar feeling. I went on vacation, for about a week. Just laid on, sat on the beach for a while. So I didn't have my PlayStation 3 with me, but I was thinking about it, the whole time, and then kind of came back and was working on various projects and was just playing every chance I could. And I was thinking about it the entire time. And yeah, I had a similar thing. It just kind of, it occupied a lot of the bandwidth that I had available, mentally. But man, what a game. I can't wait to really dive into it. So at this point, have you started Mass Effect 3?
Yes, I have. Yes,
nice.
I have.
I have too. And it's kind of funny. I'm going to do some foreshadowing here. I started up Mass Effect 3 and I was like, finally, the gameplay just clicked. I immediately, it's like whenever you're playing 2, you know what they're going for. At least on console, you know what they're going for. And then whenever 3 hits, at least gameplay wise, I was like, yes, this is exactly what I wanted in 2, but it just wasn't quite there in the same way. But I do have to say, in a lot of ways, this game is just so much better than the first game.
Yeah, it's interesting to bring that up. I'm sitting here thinking about switching from 2 to 3, and while there are some minor quality of life improvements, the game really feels the same to me. At least from my perspective, playing it on PC. Yeah. Graphically, there are some improvements there. There's some menu changes, and the way you interact with the menu, I think they polished that up and got it better. But it's still the same game. It doesn't feel like there's a monumental shift from 2 to 3, at least on the PC that I'm playing it on.
Yeah, that would make sense. And in terms of gameplay for me, it felt like a massive jump from 1, going into 2, and now playing 3. Just the gunplay just feels 1,000 times better on console.
Going from 1 to 2 is like night and day.
Oh,
I mean, you get to 2 and it's like, okay, this feels modern. This feels like a modern adventure / shooter.
Yeah, and I think we kind of approached the last episode with the mindset of how well does this hold up today, and I think we both came away saying yeah, this is a good game, but it's lacking a little bit, as far as the modern. It's fine, it's fine of how does it hold up, but it's still a good game, but we're gonna be answering that question throughout this next episode of how well does this hold up. Because I'm looking forward to getting into it. But Ethan, before we do, just remind the folks what do you do over there at Age of Geek Productions?
Over at Age of Geek, well, we have general geeky discussions. This summer, we've been going through the Transformers series, mostly the Michael Bay films, but we're also doing the animated 1986 movie. You can find our review over there. We've also been discussing a little Star Wars, the Rebels series. Ryan has been on a hiatus for a while, but he and I were able to get together and record an issue.
Oh,
And
wow.
we did a little thought experiment on what would life be like if George Lucas had not made Star Wars. What would our world look like if we did that? That was a bit of a deep dive.
I'd say that's a rabbit hole to think
Yeah,
about.
it's a rabbit hole, and it was a fun discussion. And we're about to post that one, I think this weekend actually. So it'll be out by the time folks are hearing this particular episode. So yeah, we got a lot going on over there on general geeky discussions. Plus, we've also got Drive Back the Night, an Andromeda series podcast where we talk about Gene Roddenberry's Andromeda as well. So that's the two podcasts I'm on.
There you go. There you go from the horse's mouth himself, and obviously he has become somewhat of a regular contributor to Wannabe Critic Productions. You know, you've been a pretty. Yeah, no, it's been great. You also play the Traveler, you know, in Storytime, a Star Wars podcast. You helped me with that project.
That I voiced. That I did a little voiceover work there.
Yeah, you sent me that file. I mean, I had you send me like 2 really long sessions, you know, of like just stuff, and then just kind of hobbled all of those pieces together.
Pre-pandemic, I believe. Sections of it were,
Yep.
That project's been going for a while.
It has. Yeah, that was a lot of fun to do, and you know, I had some help from some other people. Philip J. Woodward, he's a friend on Twitter. He does voice work. He's helping with an episode coming up in the future, and it's kind of a bittersweet thing because it's over. Like, I'm done. All the episodes are scheduled, and the series will be wrapped up. At least the first season. You know, at the end of October, it will be.
It's got to feel good though. You've had the germ of an idea, you've grown it, and now you've got a body of work. And it's got to feel good.
Yeah, it's one of those things, man, where you look back to what the original idea was. I have the original pilot still saved, and it was very much me just sitting down with the book and saying like, hey, everybody, you know, I want to read you this stuff out of here. And then I thought about it more, and I was like, what if we like told an actual story with this, you know? And obviously I ripped a lot of the material from a book and just kind of made my own narrative out of it until now. You know, the way the first season ends, there's opportunity for a lot of different interpretations and a lot of different stories to be told. So it feels really good to see where the idea started versus where it is now. And yeah, it's a good feeling for sure. And
it's been a fun story to follow.
Oh yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you for all your contributions. And it was a pleasure to do the first episode of Mass Effect. I'm happy you're here back on the second one. We always have electric discussions, and you know, I want to make sure we give the folks enough to go off of for you to where they know where they can find you if they want to, you know, check out your stuff. Because I'm anticipating that this episode will probably get more traction than the first episode. But we'll see what happens.
Mass Effect is the best game ever.
Right, yeah. What we know of so far. Right. What will definitely happen is if we say anything negative about it, like worst in the series. Well, I can see the thumbnail, you know, because this is video. Worst Mass Effect? ? That will get a ton of traffic. I know it, but you know, we're not
probably a lot of trolls too.
Oh yeah, for sure. You know it. But you know, before we get too far into it, before we get into the meat of the discussion, I do want to say, you know, you're listening to Game Club. You can check out our merchandise at wannabecritic.com. You can see this dope mug that I got from Teespring. I'm really happy. I had a lady from England do all of our banners and things like that for the podcasts, and obviously, you know, it's kind of turned into a symbol of sorts for what Wannabe Critic Productions stands for. So it's been a lot of fun, but definitely go check out all of our different stuff over at Wannabe Critic Productions, or wannabecritic.com, to find all of our stuff there. Also, really quickly, you can go to popcultusa.com. They have this dope natural light hat they sent me, but they have a ton of other stuff. Like, they sent me some Battletoads merch and some Monster Hunter merch and like a bunch of other stuff. And it's just whatever your fandom might be. If you use my code, _wannabecritic, you can get 30% off your entire order. And I guarantee there's something there for you. So just wanted to talk about that before we go any further. But Ethan, without further ado, let's get into our Mass Effect 2 discussion. I have an outline here. I don't know how closely we need to stick to it. You know, I just kind of wrote down things as I thought about it. I podcast so much now. it's a really weird thing, man, where whenever you have 3 or 4 shows a week that you record, you almost just keep your outline. You can see it in your head, and you just kind of go wherever it just goes wherever it needs to go, But I want to take more time with the Game Club episodes to really make it more. I don't know if compartmentalize is the right word, but to just kind of give it a different spin, than the regular show. So I'm glad that we did this, but obviously we don't have to stick super close to these. We can go wherever. But so I want to talk about, just start off with how Mass Effect 1 ends and kind of the story up to this point, and where we find ourselves at the beginning of Mass Effect 2, and kind of just go from there. So you can add to this, or feel free to interject. But basically, we learned of a sentient race called the Reapers. Do we learn in the first game that they try and purge life every 50,000 years? Do we learn that in the first game?
Yeah, we do.
Okay, so
because part of that weird little alcove on that ivy covered planet that you're on right before you go back to the Citadel. That's where all of the history kind of comes full circle, and you realize you're in a cyclical event, basically.
Yeah, and now the time has come for the Reapers to purge all life again, and they're pretty much unstoppable. One Reaper, a Vanguard Reaper known as Sovereign, made a deal with a Spectre, who is basically a Spectre. It can, as you know from the first game, can travel and go about and pretty much do whatever they want because they're blessed by the Council. They have the Council's approval to pretty much make decisions as they see fit. So, whenever the person you play as, Shepard, brings it to the Council's attention that Saren is working with a thought-to-be extinct Reaper, the Council looks at you as Shepard a little bit funny and saying, okay, the Reapers can't exist, like this is all fake, Saren's our most trusted Spectre. So then you find yourself at the end of Mass Effect 1 kind of proving them wrong, taking care of the Vanguard Reaper Sovereign, and also taking care of Saren, solidifying your reputation as the first human Spectre. Is that a good way to surmise the way the first game ends, Ethan?
Credits roll, then the Normandy sails off into a starry sunset.
Yeah, it's a fairy tale ending. It's like, my God, it brings a freaking tear to your eye. You know what I mean? Like you just don't get any better than that.
Yeah, no, literally, did we not know until we boot up the second game 5 seconds later.
Yeah, exactly. Well, since I'm on PS3, it took me like half an hour because the freaking game had to install. Yeah. So,
but the way, are we getting into Mass Effect 2 now?
Yeah. Well, I wanted to release, relinquish the reins to you and kind of fill in the blanks and kind of bring us up to speed as to what happens at the beginning of Mass Effect 2.
Okay, well, full disclosure, listeners, Gabe and I kind of banter a little bit back and forth during the course of our gameplay. And so I really wanted to talk about and maybe dwell on the first, 10, 15 minutes of the game when you get into that world again. Wow. There's always this contrivance of, how do you reset the board and you start your new character and you go through your progressions and your level ups and gathering your team? How do you make this
organic? How do you make it feel new again?
Yeah, exactly. Man, BioWare does it right, because what better way to do it than pull an old Star Trek trick and blow up the Enterprise, right? And so that's how you start the game, is the SR-1 Normandy, this ship that you've grown to love and have crawled around inside for a whole game, 20 plus hours, and it's gone. And it's epic.
It's awesome.
When they blow the ceiling out and you're walking through with your space helmet on and you're looking out at this planet through the gaping hole and everything, and just listening to your voice, your breath as you're making your way through the ship. It just a highly, highly cinematic play style that I absolutely love. And then you die, essentially.
Pretty much.
And it's like, well, that was the shortest sequel I've ever played.
Yeah, frack.
And I didn't get to do anything.
Yeah.
And then it resets and you learn about Cerberus and them reviving you and the Lazarus Project, which great name, but
Oh, totally.
so all of this kind of comes together, and now you're reset, and now you're starting from scratch. And I think it's masterful the way they reset the board and set you up for a brand new adventure, but in the same world. And now you're not a part of the Alliance. You're not a Spectre anymore. So you've got this whole other operating system and hierarchy that you got to learn.
Yeah, absolutely. And just kind of the way the decisions, how it feels more organized. It feels more, kind of bullet point ish of, okay, here are the things that I need to get done. Some time has passed. A couple of years have passed, since you were killed, and you were a Spectre, but apparently to the council, death relinquishes those those privileges. So the natural thing would be this company Cerberus, the elusive man, right? He pulls you in. He's like, all right, Shepard, here's what's going on. The Omega 4 relay, the Reapers, like there's all, or the Collectors, excuse me. There's all these different things going on, and no ship has ever come back through this Omega 4 relay, and we want to send you there, so we need you to assemble a team and get everything going. And that's just kind of where our story begins. But one of the first things I did, Ethan, like in the first half hour of the game, I went to the Alliance, right? Or the Council, excuse me.
Yeah.
And at this point in the game, I'm ignorant because I haven't played Mass Effect 2 before, and I was not a fan of the bullcrap the Council pulled in the first game by not believing me and, trying to besmirch my reputation and things like that. And then you go back to try and talk to them, and they're doing the same crap still.
Yes.
They don't believe you. It's like, bruh, I had a freaking vision from these freaking Reaper a-holes, and they're coming, and you saw Sovereign, like you saw him. He destroyed the Citadel. Do you remember that 2 years ago, or has your political agenda completely clouded and made you forget about the real thing that you should be focused on? And I think that might be a small problem I have with this game, is just how little how non-serious the Alliance or the Council actually takes the threat that happened a couple of years ago, and just how much they've just very much moved on from that thing that had happened. It just seemed a little out of place to me, and yet this rogue organization that has a bad reputation of Cerberus, like they know what's up. It just seemed a little backwards to me, in a way. How did you feel about that?
Well, I hear what you're saying, and to an extent I agree with it, but I also look at the Council, and they've got a little bit of a chip on their shoulder because they're very much putting the blame on everything that happened and the death of Council members in the first battle. They're putting it on your shoulders, and they thought you were dead, and now you're showing up here 2 years later. You're not dead. And so, yeah, they're going to have a problem with you. And also, and this is something we see real world, people have a real short memory about things that affect them when they're trying desperately to hold on to what little modicum of power that they possess.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's the motivation of the Council. They're so busy putting out fires that when you show up, they're like, I haven't got time to mess with you.
Yeah, you're annoying me.
Yeah, and it felt very organic that the Council and the Alliance would just brush you off because they've got bigger fish to fry.
Yeah, but yet they don't see that the thing that I'm bringing to their table is actually the real problem.
Is really the thing they should focus on.
So I have a question then. Did you, because to my knowledge, I saved the Council in the first game. Like, none of the Council members died on my watch in the first game. Did they die on your watch?
They did in mine.
They did in yours?
Some of them did, yes.
Okay, so all of my, because there's 3 Council members, right?
In the first one.
In the first one, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so in my Mass Effect 2, all 3 of them were alive still, plus Udina, right?
Yeah.
So
I don't. The disadvantage for me is that I played the first game on the Xbox, and then ME2 was a brand new game for me on PC. And
you weren't able to import your save.
Yeah, so I did not have direct influence from the first game to the second game. It was just whatever was preloaded in.
Gotcha. Okay, gotcha. Well, I just wanted to start there because I went to the Council and kind of spoke my thing, and then they were like, well, we can reinstate your Spectre status, for whatever. And I was like, what? Like, it just felt like the biggest slap in the face to me. It's like, okay, so you're basically just trying to give me this accolade that really obviously doesn't mean anything because I can do whatever I want right now as without a Spectre. I told him to go jump in the lake, and I just did my own thing, and I did not go back to talk to the council another time in the game because I hate them that much.
Yeah, I was the same way. I spoke to them early on, and they did the same thing, and I didn't. I backed off from it and went my own way with Cerberus.
Well, and the things that the elusive man and that Cerberus bring to the table are so appealing. Not to mention Miranda. I'm just kidding. She actually really annoyed me in the game.
Anyway, we'll get into it.
Yeah, no, we'll get to it. We'll get to it. They make a good proposition for you. You are a tool at their disposal, and you have pretty much any resource you could think of at your disposal, and you can go do whatever you want. And having that bad reputation is kind of a good thing because no one is going to mess with you if you are backed by Cerberus. And I'm kind of learning that as I'm playing Mass Effect 3 now, Yeah. It's like, okay, I'm kind of seeing the other side of that. But I loved being a Cerberus operative. I absolutely loved it.
I was uneasy with it the entire time. But that's because I had a little bit of information about the third game. However, even not remembering in full detail what's to come, you have the question here, do we trust Cerberus?
Totally.
At no point do I trust Cerberus. Because the elusive man is he is a rich, power-hungry individual. And that's the long and the short of it. And you do not trust people with that much power.
Yeah. And
so I very much kept that mentality the whole way through. He leans very hard early on into that we rebuilt you, man, so you owe us. Totally. And anyone that's going to play that card so early on is never a person I feel like that deserves trust or loyalty.
Yeah. And I mean, anytime he tried to play that card, I told him to basically eat it, I wasn't. It's like, you brought me back. I'm the most dangerous person in the galaxy at this point. So I kind of played the renegade a couple of times, Yeah. But the things, if you do that, he almost like kind of admires you for having that attitude. If you play the renegade option.
Oh yeah, he'll tell you you're an independent thinker.
Yeah, exactly. But he's telling you just exactly what you want to hear. And
sure.
It was. I never once thought. I knew that the elusive man would come to bite me in the butt eventually, but I knew also the threat that was at stake, and it's like, okay, I need to do the best job I possibly can in stopping these things.
Yeah.
So let's kind of get into that a little bit more. Do you have anything to add to this kind of outset of the discussion?
Well, I'm curious about your decision with Cerberus at the end of the game, but we can get to that when we get into a bit more spoiler-heavy discussion.
Yeah, totally. Because I don't want to reveal it all right now, but it'll come at the end of the game. Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right.
And I did have a sense of loyalty to Cerberus to an extent because I didn't know what kind of trouble I was getting myself into, so to speak. But let's kind of talk about the overall gameplay, graphics, atmosphere, and kind of talk about our different experiences on PC versus PS3. So I'll start. Let's talk about just the overall gameplay experience. How good did the character models look on your PC? I have a question about that.
I'm playing with an RTX 2070 video card. So I'm running 1080p on a 1080p monitor at 60 hertz. The card more than handles what I'm throwing at it. And it looks amazing. The modeling, the textures, the lighting is incredible. And I had played it on Xbox 360 before and had seen it on Xbox One. Had never played it on the Xbox One though. I was thrilled with the gameplay in this one. I mean, we can run now, and that felt amazing to be able to advance through the maps that way. But from a graphic standpoint, it is beautiful for a game that was made in 2010, it is gorgeous today.
Yeah, I was curious as to how good it could possibly look on PC, because on PS3 it just felt like the PS3 in some moments just couldn't really handle it.
Really?
Yeah, I mean it was potato-esque. I mean it was barely a step up from Mass Effect 1 in a lot of areas.
Well,
it looked better in terms of design. It looked way better, and Shepard looked a little bit better, but it just wasn't optimized very well
right.
for the
Yeah,
PS3.
see, I'm running full intensity on my graphics. I'm running no film grain, of course. Just everything cranked to 11 that I possibly can, and it works smooth. The load times were insanely fast. Yeah, I from a graphic standpoint, I was thrilled with the PC version here.
Yeah, and I think even though that there was a little bit of disappointment, I can't harp on it too much. I spent $140 on the PS3 Super Slim, and I paid $20 for the 3 games. It was one of those things where it was like, I acknowledge that this doesn't look the best, but it doesn't hold it back from being good, in my opinion. And it still is a lot. It doesn't distract in any way, from the average gamer thinking that this is cool, and it's still, it lands when it needs to land, things like that. But I wondered how good the performance would be, how much better it was going to be on PC.
I will identify for you a big difference in how you and I, in our different platforms, were able to enjoy or not enjoy the game. You said you went to the captain's cabin one time and never went back.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would say partly because it took forever when you left CIC. It took forever to load the captain's quarter. I'll bet.
I don't think I went all throughout the ship, and it didn't really take a ton of time, as much time as it did in the first game, to get from point A to point B. Like, it was way better than the first game. I think I legitimately just forgot the captain's quarters were there, at the flotilla ships and stuff like that. Like, when you sent me those pictures, I was like, where the crap is that?
Oh, there's all kinds of cool stuff you can collect in the game on the different levels that you play through, and it collects there in your captain's quarters. And I would just go into my captain's quarters just to hang out and look at my ship models on the wall and listen to the music player and my fish and my tank, which I could never keep alive for more than a day or two, because they'll be swimming around in there, and you'll load the game up the next day, and you'll have forgotten to have fed them, and then they're all floating.
Fish?
Yeah, you feed your fish. Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So
and then they're
weird.
all floating at the top, so you got to clean out the tank and everything. It's great. And I had a space hamster too. So
would you? Okay, yeah. So see, this is probably gonna blow you away. I did not go to every single merchant to try and collect anything. And
that's what you have to do.
Yeah, I mean, I kept the same 3 guns.
Yeah.
Like, unless I would find one, I'd be like, oh, this looks cool. It was like, oh, I didn't realize there were so many guns that I could have got so much earlier on, and I didn't even really start upgrading my weapons until like the last quarter of the game. So like I had all these weapon upgrades, and like all my resources were like completely full at all times. So like I get to like the last quarter of the game, and like I was like, oh, frick. Like there's a lot for me to upgrade right now. So like I upgraded the ship as much as I possibly could. The thing that did it for me, where I was like, God, I wish I would have done this earlier, was upgrading my sniper rifle. And I had the rapid fire sniper, like the DMR basically. So when I did that, I was like, oh my God.
That Viper sniper rifle, that's the go-to.
It was so awesome. I was like, man.
Yeah.
But it sounds like we both had good experiences.
Oh, absolutely. I'm sure we did. But for me, like going through the ship, you would walk from one load level to the next. But the way it would load so quickly, it was almost like walking from one room to the next. The load times were just that quick.
Wow.
So walking through the ship was just an absolute joy. I probably spent a solid couple of hours just walking around the ship, just exploring.
The ship, let's talk about the Normandy for a second.
The SR2?
Yeah, the SR2 versus how it feels in the first game. It's a completely different feeling. Like, I really felt like I was in Star Trek in Mass Effect 2. More so than I did in Mass Effect 1. Did you feel the same way?
Yeah, it's a bigger ship, and it feels bigger. It's laid out very similar to the SR1 that you get in the first Mass Effect game, but it just feels right.
Yes.
here in Mass Effect 2.
I think what might do it for me was just everybody kind of being in the positions that they were in, you know, and like the different places they were in. Like, it would make sense that Garrus would want to, you know, be more solitary on the main battery, and you know, it would make sense that Jack would want to be, you know,
in the bowels of the ship.
Yeah, just like rocking, like, I'll be pretty, you know, like it just
Man, I stayed out of the bottom of that ship because I half expected to walk down there and have her like scratching, you know, profanity in the walls and stuff like that. Yeah,
she's misunderstood, you know. I will say, did you do her mission like to get her loyal?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, cool. I changed her clothes immediately. The strap barely covering the nipples, that was a little much for me. I was like, this you are the reason why this game has to be rated the way it is. Like, you alone, because there.
Well, I don't know. Miranda's pushing it.
Yeah, I didn't really mess with her. I don't do brunettes. You know what I mean? It's just my wife's blonde, but and I also it was one of those things too. Yes, those types of situations are in the game. For whatever reason, like thinking that this was, you know, because I was like role playing as my wife, basically, like Emma Shepherd, you know what I mean? And I'm like, Emma wouldn't do that. Like, she's not into that type of thing. So it helped. Yeah. Look at me go. But it as far as the ship is concerned, it just makes so much sense as to the way everything is laid out, and I was excited. I couldn't wait to go back to the galaxy map, except there would be those times where I'd go to the galaxy map and, you know, what's her face would be like, oh, so-and-so wants to talk to you. And I'm like, well, frick, you know what I mean? I guess I'll just go check on them now. And, you know, those opportunities, whenever they came up, I was excited for them, but I wanted to grind out everything I needed to do and just like keep on going. I didn't want to be taken away. From my main task.
Yeah.
But in those types of situations, it would be realistic. Like, okay, I can't just stay on the ball the entire time. Like, it would make sense that I would need to go talk to Garrus or need to go talk to so-and-so about whatever they needed help with.
Yeah. You know, and those quality of life improvements that they put in this one, you get your message center right there next to the galaxy map. And the messages that you're getting in your inbox are really informing you on the state of the galaxy and the state of your team at the same time too. And you're getting these updates through that. It really makes it easy for you to, you know, flit around the galaxy and do resource gathering or pick up a mission here or a side quest over there. And the ship feels tight as far as advancing the story and allowing you to role play and carry out different missions at different times. I thought it was really well done. The way they condensed, instead of making you run from one end of the ship to the next to get the information that you need, it's all pretty tight and pretty close in. And I really appreciated that, how they changed the game in that regard.
Yeah, and like just the ship is easily navigatable, you know, like it's just easy to jump around. And I think about games,
and you don't ever have to get in the friggin' Mako to go explore a planet.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about the Mako in the first episode, but forgot. And I wanted to kind of briefly talk about the lack of the Mako in this game. There's no Mako, and there were parts of it that I enjoyed in the first game, but the mini game for gathering resources in the second game is just so addicting. Like,
yes, it is.
I spent so much time like trying to get the best levels, and if a planet didn't have rich resources, I'm like, screw it, I'm not messing with it.
You know, I gotta say, for two guys that spend a lot of their time looking at waveforms on a screen, this was hitting me right in my wheelhouse.
Yeah, totally. I'm like, oh, that makes sense. Yes, okay, there. I totally agree with that. And how sometimes you'd go look for resources, you stumble upon like, oh, there's a distress beacon. I better go see what's wrong, like what's going on. And it was kind of one of those things. Once I got to a certain threshold of, just a certain amount of resources across the board, I was like, okay, if a planet isn't rich in resources, I'm not screwing with it, which was fine. It worked out. I barely spent any credits. I think I had like 3 million credits by the end of the game or something like that.
I spent so much credits on ship models and animals. It was ridiculous.
I had 4 flotilla ships by the end of the game because I restarted, like pretty much as soon as the game is over, it takes you back to your captain's quarters to explore, and I was like, cool. So I had like 4 ships just chilling, but I was like, I'm not gonna, this game's obviously getting a remaster, so I'm not gonna screw with it until the remaster comes out. Yeah. But yeah, the ship feels like a character, and the ship really feels like it has its own, you kind of have your own agenda with the ship in a way, like of stuff that you want to do, and the ship kind of coincides with that. I think about, you probably haven't played this game, but I think about more modern games like Borderlands 3, where, Sanctuary is a ship, and just how cumbersome that ship was to navigate, and how confusing that game was, how confusing the ship in that game was to navigate. I think about a game that was made 10 years ago, like Mass Effect 2. I'm like, it's not that freaking hard. Make your mini-map concise and make the ship easy to be around. Make me want to be on the ship. And that's what Mass Effect 1 didn't do for me. I was like, I got to get in, get this done, and get out. I do not want to spend any time in this game, or I don't want to spend any more time than I have to in this game or on the ship.
Yeah. Whereas here, this one invites you to play in the world for a while.
Yes, totally. It makes you want to go talk about the rest of your crew, other than your main teammates. So,
which essentially is the main body of the game, is you walk around talking to your crew, and then you help them out when they tell you, hey, can you help a brother out?
Yeah, totally. And I like how it gives you the option to say like whether or not you have time or not to help them. It was just kind of an interesting touch. Just kind of moving it along just a little bit. Whoops, what's going on here? I liked how the mission design, let's talk about that for a second. We'd have all these mini missions, or we have these, climactic moments whenever the elusive man would tell you, hey, go take care of this, like the first time we come upon the collectors. And then whenever the original ship that took you down in the beginning of the game, you happen upon them again later in the game. Moments like that, just the overall, the way everything fits together, it felt like a TV show to me. Did you get that at all? Do you see what I'm kind of picking up?
A little bit. I was struck by just how much larger the world seemed, how much larger the universe seemed. And so for me, it kind of took it in the opposite direction. In Mass Effect 1, I know I'm playing the first chapter, and so I definitely could see that being more show-like, having the show quality. I don't know, Mass Effect 2, I equate with, there were far more cinematic experiences for me in Mass Effect 2 than what I had in 1. So I think that, I don't know, the perception might be a little bit different from my perspective. But, it did feel like when it was time to advance the plot a little bit further along, there's the elusive man contacting you. And he's got another little nugget for you and the next mission. So if that's what you're referring to, it felt maybe a little bit episodic in that regard.
Yeah, and I think I'm maybe just talking, And, I say TV show. It could have been like, a set of movies or whatever. It felt more, I don't know if singular is the right word, but just, okay, I'm helping my teammates. We're doing their mission. Like, that's like an episode, And then whenever we'd have a main thing to do, like, that was an episode. And, like, it felt like they were, I don't know. I haven't watched a ton of Star Trek, but it felt like a bunch of really good Star Trek episodes kind of thrown together, and you're able to pick and choose kind of which ones you want to do.
Yeah, I think I follow what you're saying. So to you, playing the different missions, they didn't really feel like that one influenced the next or one led to the next. It felt very standalone-ish for each one of them, and you were basically just picking and choosing
what you wanted to watch, or what you wanted
to watch. Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Maybe. Yeah. I can agree with that.
And like your mission report at the end was like the end credits in a way, like of showing you everything you did. And it just felt like, okay, that's an isolated story. When you help Garrus, that doesn't come back up again in the story. Like that's done. Like that's wrapped up in a bow. And like you did that part,
Yeah, that's true.
And I don't know. I liked the way it told the story and told your crew's stories and like kind of told their background, it made your mind kind of go like, how'd they get into a position where they were, you know, working with so and so, or like the mission where you're sneaking up on top of the like you're following the official, the I don't remember whose mission that was. I think it was Thane's mission. You're trying to look for Thane's son.
Yeah, you're trying to. Well, yeah, you're helping him out. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I love that. I was like, man, what a cool way to tell the story, because it's not super action heavy. True. In that way. Like you're literally just the game's just kind of guiding you along. It has a specific way it wants to tell you that story.
Almost had a Metal Gear feel to it.
Yeah, a little bit for sure.
Sneaking around, you're not wanting to be spotted. And
yeah, exactly. And except now you open up a can of worms there, because had he could have spotted you, you know, that would have been kind of cool. But I don't think he can. You know what I mean? Right. There was another mission. I don't think you got to do it because you didn't recruit Kasumi. Kasumi might have had my favorite side mission.
Really? And I want to bring that up because you were saying,
something happened with Kasumi.
Something happens with Kasumi, and I'm like, who? I'm sorry. So I've been through this game like 3 times, and I've never recruited Kasumi. I always assumed that empty spot that never got filled was because I could never recruit Ashley when you meet her early on in the game.
Gotcha. So. Yeah, so Kasumi was the first one I recruited.
Wow. Right.
And I think it might have been just by chance. I was on the Citadel, and there's a console you can go touch, and she's basically like communicating with you through the console, and she is like, hey, I have a, you know, like, you know, because he puts it on the dossier, go find the such and such. I can't remember what her code name was, but in her mission, she's like, yeah, there's this piece of art that my boyfriend, or like, you know, my lover or whatever, he has a message for me. And like this warlord has this piece of art, and like, you know, I think that he might have killed her, whatever. So you go to this warlord's party, and you and Kasumi, she goes invisible and is like just sneaking around, and like there's all of these crime lords from the galaxy having a party, and you're just kind of trying to like BS your way through it, like, oh yeah, like you're so and so. And it was just it was almost like a James Bond movie or an Ocean's 11 movie. Like, yeah, just I think starting out with a moment like that really set the tone with how each individual story kind of had its own little thing it was trying to do. And I think that's, you know, with the TV show thing, like that's kind of why it speaks to me that way. But
I've still got my file. I need to go back to the Citadel and see if I can find that.
Yeah, see if you could find her, like, because that would be pretty cool. And it's interesting how we played the same game and we went through the same things, but we experienced the story in a different way based on the decisions we made in the order that we made them.
Yeah.
Which is crazy to me, like, to think about.
That is the beauty of the game.
Oh, yeah.
Besides giving you just a rich tapestry of aliens and planets and events that are taking place. Can we talk about some of the aliens for a moment that we encounter?
Absolutely.
It feels like this one does a lot more. Well, it introduces more alien races. What were the Blood Pack?
The Varl Viver.
Yeah, it started with a V.
Starts with a V.
They're ugly. They're ugly creatures, but they're also interesting and a little bit funny at the same time. So, we have those. But then, I loved walking around the Citadel. I sent you a clip of it, of Elcor reading Shakespeare. And I mean, this is an advertisement that you just encounter, and it's like different segments of Alcor reading from different like Hamlet and other Shakespeare plays. And it's just, there is so much depth that they put in little Easter eggs and taking you to even more places that just makes this universe feel enormous. And again, a place that you want to just take time to explore.
Just packed full of lore. Like,
yeah.
Intentional, like things that were placed there for you to wonder about, but knowing that you would never get resolution or never really know everything that you could possibly want to know about that thing. You know what I mean? It definitely breathed life into it for sure. Yeah. Like, yeah. And that clip that you sent me, I'm going to put that at the end of the show. That Shakespeare clip, because that was cracking me up, and just the Eeyore-esque way about they speak, you know, it's good stuff.
Yeah.
What other aliens?
Um. Oh, gosh. Like I said, there's so much. I do want to ask you a question though.
Yeah.
What was your two favorite characters that you played most of your missions with, or that you wanted to have on your missions most?
So I was kind of feeling like an idiot because I realized about halfway into this second game, I'm asking myself the question. I'm like, "Where's Rex?" And I forgot. You can't recruit Rex in this game, and I forgot about that. But my two favorites ended up being as soon as I was able to get Grunt out of the tank, Grunt, and towards the end of the game, Legion. Uh, those were my two favorites by far.
And
Like literally,
explain those two.
yeah. So Grunt is they call him he's tank born. He's a tank born Krogan. Basically, whenever you go to Tachanka and you're talking to all the different Krogan, like they don't respect him. They recognize him as not really being full Krogan, and are kind of making remarks about him and like, someone even says something. Well, because I kept Rex alive in my playthrough, so Rex is like, well, he smells right. Like it's not that big of a deal, And that's another thing is if you leave Rex alive and you're able to convince him to stand down in the first game, he's actually the leader on Tachanka in the second game. So that was a real treat for me to be able to encounter that. So, and just being able to kind of help Grunt, and I have a soft spot for the Krogan. Like the Krogan might be my favorite alien race in Mass Effect. Especially Grunt and Rex both crack me up. Who is the leader on Tachanka who was it for your playthrough? Was it that Tool?
No, it's not the one that's voiced by Worf, Michael Dorn. And I think that's who you're.
Yeah,
he's a real thorn in your side.
Yeah, and it was funny, like with Rex, Rex is like, get out of here, and like after Rex like headbutts him straight up, and he like walks away, and like he's still mouthing off, and Rex just goes, "Idiot, what do you need help with?" Like it was just kind of it was like just seeing their culture was hilarious to me.
This is what makes this game so great is I get a little bit of my Star Trek in my sci-fi RPG game here with Michael Dorn, who played Worf on Next Generation. So I mean, it's great it's having little voice actors do cameos like that make this game so entertaining for me. But yeah, he is a real tool. And did he not show up in one of your missions where you can take him out?
Oh yeah, I trashed him, like just straight up, just trashed him the first opportunity I got. So that was fine. That was fun,
as it should.
Yeah, as it should be. So that was Grunt's story. Just his tank born. He was developed in a lab, and that we kind of touched on that in the first game with all the different because of the genophage and all that stuff. And then Legion being essentially a rogue Geth, and kind of going against protocol and like realizing like, hey, I don't want to do what the heretics are doing. That's what he called like essentially the entire Geth race was they're heretics because they're the ones going against their programming. Like Geth are supposed to be independent and like kind of do their own thing. And I was like, all right, Legion, it's unfortunate that they had to, name him after a demon, but it is what it is. But he was one of my favorite characters for sure. And he was,
but you did the reference. It was appropriate.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I mean, you can't deny you can't deny the apropos of what happened. But they were actually at my side in the final push at the end of the game. Grunt and Legion. Yeah. So also it's showing me my connection's unstable again. We had to. I don't know if the listeners. We had to kind of break it up a little bit, but if it seems a little choppy these next few minutes, you'll know why. Are you frozen? Oh, okay. Am I like super delayed now or something?
I'm here. Yeah, you're like really delayed. We may want to pause for a sec.
Okay, yeah, let's pause.
I see you moving, so I think we're better.
Okay, are we better now?
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know what's happening. I don't know why this is happening. This sucks, but I'll fix it. So those were the people that were in my party during that period of time. Who were you? Who is by your side most of the time?
My go-tos early on, I am hands down. Morden has to be with me at every opportunity. I love Solarians. I said that in the first game. I think they're a fantastic race. And then Morden is just the embodiment of everything that I like about Solarians. He's hilarious. He sings. He's got ADD. It's just there's all these qualities about him, but he's so smart. I mean, sharp as a tack, and he can hang in a fight. So I mean, I love Morden. In fact, I'm shopping for a Morden action figure right now, but I can't find any under $80 at the moment. So
Well, I like how like
but
just part of his like antenna is gone,
it's
and
gone. Yeah,
he's
yeah.
like he has the mad scientist vibe about
Yes.
him a little bit.
His model, the facial structure, the modeling for that character, just the shape of his suit and the little things around his head and everything. I love everything about Morden. It's just a fantastic character. So I would have him with me more often than not. Grunt was kind of my close second, believe it or not. Yeah, I'm not a Krogan fan, but I really did like Grunt, and I liked having him by my side. So early on, those were the two that I was rolling with. And then as we got further into the story, for the first time, I really gravitated toward Tally, and really kind of pursued the friendship with her. And it was very much, it was gratifying because it was very much like a brother-sister relationship, at least the way I played it, between her and Shepard. And then at the end, when you do the mission to gain her loyalty, she basically becomes family. You are now her family, and that was just I was really enjoying that particular aspect of that character, and so I had Tally with me for a lot of all the way through the end and into the final run. But yeah, as we'll get into as we talk a little bit further about how our final push went, I had to make a hard choice.
Yeah, so Tally was the last person that I recruited.
Yeah.
I went and I recruited Legion, and then Tally and her mission were the last things I had to do before I had the Omega 4 relay, and I didn't really gravitate at all towards her in the first game. But she's fine. I like her, and the Quarians are a really cool race.
I was the same. In the first game, I was not interested in what anything that she had to say or anything on offer there. But I don't know what it was. I just kept going back and talking with her. I liked being in engineering, and she's down there in engineering. And I'd be hanging out and looking around in engineering and would just go ahead and chat with her. And there's a lot of interesting conversation. You actually get to know her a little bit better. And I don't know. There's something about the bohemian quality of her lifestyle that I don't know. I listened a lot better this time, and it actually ended up being integral to my story that I advanced on, and I enjoyed it.
My God, that's beautiful. No, I'm just kidding. No, that's cool. It's nice to know that you are able to have such a different experience than I did. I wanted to say, kind of move to our next little big topic. One thing I wanted to talk about is, we were talking about how, for me, this game kind of felt like a TV series in some ways. I liked the exploration in the game. It would have been freaking awesome if we had been able to go to those planets and actually like experience the culture on those planets and like get a bunch of different missions and like actually explore like a little map, And there's not much of that in this game. There's not much of that in any of these games so far that I've seen, where you get to really hunker down in an area and, explore that little map. And, you shouldn't expect it. It's a game, that would have been well ahead of its time had it been able to do that. But I liked the exploration that it did give us. Anything to add to that?
No, I mean, there are moments where you feel like you are on a rail, but for the most part, they are giving you exactly what you're expecting. It is a sandbox. You get to go where you want to go when you decide you want to go, and you know that there are certain things that you don't want to do because you're just not ready yet.
Yeah.
And so you don't. If you do, you're gonna have a very truncated experience.
Yeah.
But so I don't recommend that. Take your time with the game. And I think there's, you were 26 hours, 27 hours in your gameplay?
Just under 30 hours.
Just under 30, and I was around 25 hours, 25, 26 is where I ended up at so far. I'm going back into it. But yeah, it just there's enough there, and if you want to push as deep as you can into it, there's plenty there for your time, and it's rewarding. And if you just want to go experience just the basic campaign, yeah, you can make that work for you too.
And it's a great time.
And both are great experience, can be great experiences.
Yeah. But if you make the decision to not help out your crewmates, you're also going to have you're in for a rude awakening, I think. But that's neither here nor there.
You're making life hard for yourself.
Yeah, if you decide to do that. So kind of getting into, some decisions we made and some of our favorite moments with the crew and some of our favorite side missions. I wanted to ask, what do you think your favorite moments were? What were some of your favorite moments in this game?
Well, like I talked to, actually kind of developing a relationship with Tally that was, not a romantic relationship, just like gaining a sister that you didn't know you had. I did not realize that game could deliver that for you. That was pretty cool. Man, the absolute laugh out loud moment for me is when Morden sings. I forget the name of the play.
When is that? I don't remember that, but he wasn't with me a lot of the time either. So
he wasn't. Okay. Well, it eventually comes from you go back enough times and talk with him in his laboratory, and eventually he bursts into song. Something Pinafore. I forget the name of the play now, but he sings a variation of a very famous song. And it's
I can imagine it.
Google it. Go watch it on YouTube. It's worth it just to look it up on YouTube. I'm sure it's out there. And that's a gem. That's an absolute gem. And I laughed quite loudly at that.
Yeah, I rolled with Morden a little bit towards the beginning of the game. He's an interesting fellow. One moment that really stood out to me, and maybe it's just the Beavis and Butthead, quality of my humor that really came to the forefront. But when you're exploring Tuchanka and you're supposed to be helping, the Krogans out, you're not helping Grunt out, but you're helping, that clan there. I think you're actually helping Morden look for his associate.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, so you're helping Morden with his associate, and the Krogans are kind of helping you, and they're like, "Hey, keep on the lookout for our buddy." He went over to that base and he never came back. So you're exploring, and like if you open the door, you come to find out that Morden's associate has been experimenting on the Krogans to try and put an end to the genophage, but it's been in a pretty brutal way. And, the Solarians and the Krogans, they have bad blood towards each other. So, of course, Morden's all up in arms about it. He's like, dude, what are you doing? And one of the effects of them experimenting was brainwashing. So you find this buddy of the Krogan warlords there, and the poor guy has been completely brainwashed into feeling like he's an infidel. And, he's like not worth anything, and he's like talking. He's like, no female is ever going to want to mate with me. I got to stay here and prevent everything from happening. And then it was funnier coming from a woman, because I'm playing as a girl. And I believe her words were, she's like, nah, man, you got to get out of here because we can't do this without you. And he's like, you need me? She's like, yeah, only a real badass could escape and get out of here. Now go out there and mate with some female Krogan. And he goes, all right, I'll do it. And he just goes, he just starts running away. In that moment, I laughed for probably a solid 5 to 10 minutes. I mean, it would just kind of come back to me. But there's just little things like that sprinkled in the game, all over the place. Go ahead.
Absolutely. Well, and you're so used to Krogans being this dour, very, very tough species.
Yeah, and straightforward.
And this guy's, bless his ever-loving heart. He's trying. And then you're right. It is a great moment. By the way, I looked up that species we couldn't name before, Vorcha.
Vorcha, yes.
And what I love about them is they remind me of every Saturday morning cartoon villain.
Yes.
Just embodied in a species.
Totally. Well, and it just... Yeah. That really felt like they could have put that species in Knights Guild Republic. Like it feels like it really seems like a tried and true BioWare Star Wars inspired bad guy, and it was great to have in the game.
They look like something out of your nightmares, but they're comical or can be comical too.
Yeah,
I mean,
totally.
they,
Yeah, well said. There was another little moment where you're talking to Legion after you recruit him, and you're kind of convincing him to join the team, and Shepard goes, well, if you start singing Daisy, whatever, like kind of insinuating the Daisy song that Hal sings from 2001. I was like, oh, that was funny. That cracked me up as well.
I love that. I absolutely love the interactions between Joker and the AI that's on board. Those are priceless. And how'd you feel about actually playing as Joker in that one segment?
That really threw me off. That really surprised me.
On the edge of your seat.
It really
put me
did.
On the edge of my seat, and I had played it before too.
The only thing that I was thinking about as I'm playing the game is why this feels, they kind of telegraphed it a little bit by making Shepard go away with their crew in a not being able to it's different, and I'm like, okay, something's about to happen. So in a way,
it's a little contrived.
Yeah, it kind of took away the element of surprise just a little bit, though. I was still kind of like, oh crap, I'm playing as Joker now. It was nice to kind of, and this might be a good way to kind of transition into the collectors and like what their history actually was. What a menacing alien race, and just kind of how you've fought them earlier in the game, and then whenever you're playing as Joker, you know that everyone on the ship does not have one chance of survival at that point, and it's just kind of an interesting thing to kind of come to terms with. And you spoiler alert, you end up losing some of the crew. So in the first game, you kind of learn about the Protheans and kind of how they were the first ones to discover, the last known ones to come across this technology. And you come to find out that the collectors that you're fighting have actually been turned into something completely different, because now the Protheans aren't Protheans anymore. They have become the collectors.
They are the sole minions of orthodoxy.
Yeah, exactly. Like they're
but they are soulless.
Yeah. No, they are wired for one purpose, and that was kind of a shock, to come across.
What a terrible fate for just such an advanced species. Yeah. And then you learn this is what they become.
This is what they turn into.
It takes that element of the Reaper threat and then just ratchets it up just that much higher. Yeah, this is a race that they can't be allowed to win. They can't win, because this will be humanity's fate or some other race in the galaxy too.
Yeah, exactly. Like and I think, there's implications that they would definitely probably have a better use for the humans than any other race because of something we see at the end of the game. But the Reapers are not to be trifled with, and then we kind of move into the last big bullet point. And by the way, you said you had a problem with something on the outline. Have we talked about it yet?
Well, we talked a little bit about owing loyalty to Cerberus.
Oh, okay. So is that okay?
The only other big problem I have with the game is Jack, which we really haven't gone into Jack's character. I don't think we need to.
No, I don't think we do either. Yeah, she's just. I mean, I think I kind of had a soft spot for her.
You and I wouldn't want to meet her in a dark alley or the bowels of my ship. I ain't got time for that.
I'll put it this way: like, I liked her enough to where it was like, if she had died in the final suicide run, I would have been a little bit upset, but I would have forgot about it like 4 minutes later, and then I would have subsequently made another clone. Right. So, okay. So kind of getting into the end of the game, we make the final push of the Omega 4 relay. Come to find out, a lot of your crew can die if you don't upgrade your ship enough.
And I did that the first time playing through.
Ooh, who'd you lose the first time?
I think I lost Tally. I think I lost Grunt. And I want to say I lost Thane early on too. No. I sent him into the shaft and lost him that way. Oh. So I lost 2 crew members before we even got to the collector ship.
Wow, that sucks.
It did.
Did you lose anyone this time?
No.
Really?
No, because I knew it was coming. I fully upgraded my ship, and we landed safely, relatively speaking.
There must have been some upgrades that I missed or something like that.
Mm.
Somehow I upgraded everything I had available, but maybe there were some options. I didn't lose anybody before we got to the collector ship. I just lost a couple of people after I got there. But so kind of, getting to the final push, there's a good chance, I'm kind of on edge because there's a good chance that some of your crew is going to die during this mission.
Yeah.
And I was fully ready for it, and I thought, well, surely whoever I have with me won't die. So I was like, who matters the most to me out of all these people? And at that point in time, it was Grunt and Legion. So they were, there with me at the very end. I was like, I can't lose my Krogan. He's my buddy. Like, he's my BFF. I ended up losing Kasumi, the first person I recruited, and she kind of had a loner lifestyle anyways. So she went out with a bang, but she did get shot in the head. As they're trying to close the doors,
That's exactly how I lost Thane.
Yeah, like her head's just kind of peeking out, and then boom, you know what I mean? Like right in the head. And I was like, oh, frick, she's dead. Yeah. And then I sent Miranda to lead. And I didn't like Miranda, but I sent Miranda to lead the expedition, to kind of keep the rear ready to go. And there's a moment on the ship where she's kind of having a confrontation with Jack and kind of picking on Jack. And I took Jack's side because I'm like, Miranda, like she was being unreasonable. You know what I mean? It just felt like an unreasonable thing to me. So if you have to choose between those two, you lose Miranda's loyalty, even if you've already helped her.
Yeah.
So, and I didn't have an option to keep them both loyal at that point. So, Miranda ended up dying protecting me, but she was genetically modified and she had daddy issues, so I didn't need her around, harshing the mellow of the Normandy.
She just wanted to help her sister, though. I mean, she had a good motivation.
We'll see.
She's an ice queen. She's an ice queen. I'll give you that.
Yeah.
But yeah. She was thinking outside of herself. I appreciated that.
R.I.P.
There you go. I sent Garrus as part of the rear guard. I let him lead the rear guard group, and he came through fine and didn't lose anybody out of that group. So everything was good there.
I almost sent Jacob to do it, but I had already used him earlier. And I thought about using Garrus as well, but I was like, but what if I lose Garrus? Like, he was loyal to me, and I just didn't know exactly what was going to happen. So I was like, who do I not care about? And who will probably, help out enough? Miranda, so that's how it was. But I sent all of the, as soon as we find the people,
the survivors,
I sent Jack with the survivors. Cause I'm like, well, she has, she's a biotic god basically. So whatever. So Jack ended up living as well, and she was loyal to me. So the only people I lost were Kasumi and Miranda. But I'll tell you what, when you find the survivors and you find out what the collectors have been doing to them as they grab them, as they take them, basically just grinding them down into biomaterial to fuel something. And literally as you're making the final push, the final moments, I see the tip of something. And I'm like, that's a freaking Reaper. Like, I know exactly what that is. And then sure enough, not only is it a Reaper, you find out they've been harvesting humans and grinding them down to, biomaterial because they're fueling what looks like to be a giant Terminator of a human Reaper.
That's exactly what it is, a giant Terminator. It's a T2.
It's a T2. Like, it's exactly what it looks like. And God, did that freak me out.
Yeah.
That was well played. That had my, like, my jaw dropped. I was like, holy crap. Like, and to me, I take that as the Reapers see the humans as a threat. And they're like, okay, how do we emulate that threat and make that, make our own version of it? Collectors go out. We have, the design to make it happen. Could you have imagined an army of Reapers like that?
Could be interesting.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Yeah. All right. So we're down to the brass tacks. We're down to the end of the story.
Yes.
And we've lost one or two crew members, and that stinks. But here it is. We got to take out the final boss, right?
Yes.
I was a little underwhelmed at the final boss, to be perfectly honest.
I was annoyed.
all of this game has been storytelling and character driven and really great set pieces and just a brilliant story through and through. And then we get to this final boss, and I'm like, okay, we know the Reapers, one Reaper ship overpowered nearly the entire combined forces of the galactic fleet. Why are we really making a genetically modified T2 50 stories tall? It ultimately, if I nitpick, it bothers me. Does it make it a bad game? No, that is not at all what I'm saying. I'm just saying if I got to look at it critically, I kind of have a problem with the final boss. But,
yeah, and I had a problem with the final boss in the first game, and to me it's just kind of more of the same. Like,
yeah,
we know the real threat is actually there, and this just kind of feels like almost like another mission, but there should be a sense of finality and like impact. Is it memorable? Yeah, but it's a little too sci-fi. You know what I mean? Like, it's a little, it borders being too much, and it is, you hit it on the head. It's underwhelming, but it ends up being fine. And
it's fine. Yeah,
it's fine. It doesn't,
honestly, when all of it's said and done, and you do your debrief with the elusive man and tell him to, it's my way or the highway, and I'm hitting the road. You make that break there, so you've broken with Cerberus essentially at the end of this game. But then the last thing you see is the Reaper forces massing at the edge of the galaxy. Yeah, and that to me that's what makes this game epic.
Totally,
because you see that scene, and there are thousands of Reaper ships descending upon civilization as we know it. And then the final credits roll.
Yep.
And it's like, okay, yeah, this is real, and we've got some work to do still.
Yeah, and again, it gave me the same feeling the first game gave me. Give me more. Like, I'm ready to boot up the next one immediately, and that's exactly what I did. I played it for like an hour and a half. But so that final decision with Cerberus, what did you tell him? Did you tell him he could use the facility, or did you tell him you're blowing it up?
I blew it up.
You blew it up. Okay.
Yep.
So at this point in time, I'm kind of siding with Cerberus the whole time. I told him to take it.
Really?
I did. I was like, because let's be real. What exactly is he going to be able to derive from that facility, realistically?
True.
Yeah. And that
I'm going to be curious to see how your Mass Effect 3 gameplay goes now, having made that choice and carrying it forward. Because I told him no and blew up the facility. And now I'm into Mass Effect 3, and Elusive Man is out there, but, I don't have to worry about him. I'll be curious where your gameplay takes you.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what happens too, because he told me, I weighed the options. He's like, this blast, because he gives you an option. He's like, this blast will kill everything on the ship. It'll kill everything on the ship, but it'll leave it intact. Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking, you don't have any way to navigate this technology right now. Sure, knock yourself out. You know what I mean? It's kind of the mentality I have. So yeah, we'll see what happens. But ultimately, I was happy, and I was kind of confused. I thought me and the Elusive Man are cool, but no, I'm like, I started Mass Effect 3, and I'm like, I'm back with the Alliance. Like, okay, all right,
they reset the whole thing again.
Yeah, they did it again. So it is what it is. But overall, like, what a ride Mass Effect 2 is, and like, just, it seems like our experiences were, the path, the straight path was kind of the same in a lot of ways, but our branching paths and the way we chose to take those paths, it kind of affected our experiences in different ways.
Well, I feel like that's why this game works so well, is the bones, the structure is the same, but, we flesh them out differently. We have experienced overall this telling of the story slightly differently, to the point to where when we talk about it here, I envy a few of your experiences, and you might hear something that I've done. You're like, I wish I'd spent more time on that. It makes you want to go back and do more in the game.
Yeah.
And that's really what a great game does.
Totally. And that translates perfectly and segues into our next question is, how does this game hold up, and what's our score? I'm going to let you take the floor with this first one. How
does it hold up?
How does it hold up?
there's no discussion here. This game absolutely holds up. And I understand why a lot of people say Mass Effect 2 is the best of the trilogy. Um, I don't know that I fully 100% agree, but I'm not going to argue with anyone that says that it is, because this, for 2010, so we've gone from 2007 to 2010 or 2009. Now I can't remember exactly. 2 to 3 years, BioWare has come a long way in that time. They have developed a great gaming system. They've developed a world, a universe to inhabit that feels full and feels interesting. And they've ticked all the boxes in what you want in an RPG adventure game and shooter. They're doing it. They're hitting on all cylinders here. And then on top of it, we haven't even talked about the soundtrack.
Yeah.
The soundtrack is epic for
So
this
good.
game. I own this soundtrack and have listened to it periodically over the years. And man, it makes you feel, especially that final push.
Totally.
I mean, the suite that goes with that segment is just it's right up there as far as I'm concerned, alongside some of the best sci-fi movies out there.
Yeah, very like Oblivion-esque, like
yeah.
I mean,
it's that perfect blend of orchestral and electronica, and I really like it.
there was multiple times while I was listening to the music, especially when you're floating around your ship, that don't, that kind of thing. I was like, I gotta buy this thing on vinyl if there's a vinyl of this out there. Like, it would be so freaking awesome. Oh
no,
yeah,
absolutely.
it'd be great.
So you take all of the gameplay and the guts of the game, and then put a great soundtrack to it, and you're going to be hard pressed to find a sci-fi game that rivals what we get here in Mass Effect 2. So do I need to rate this thing?
Yeah, give it a rating.
Solid 9 out of 10. That's where this is hands down better than the first game in every way you can talk about, every way you can think of. It's better than Mass Effect. And Mass Effect, as we were talking earlier, is a good game.
Totally.
This is a great game.
Well said. I definitely respect that analysis, and I think we gave Mass Effect a 8 out of 10. Both of us did. I put myself in the position of 2010, and for whatever reason, I try, and whenever something was released in a certain time, I try to place myself in that time period. And sometimes it works, and sometimes it doesn't. I get called crazy all the time for my Star Wars and New Hope, hot takes. It is what it is. I have a hard time enjoying that movie in a similar sense as to some other people. But putting myself in 2010, it just doesn't feel like it was that long ago. And I'm immediately able to think of the quality and like the execution. It's one of the best games ever made, in my opinion. It's not just the best Mass Effect game I've played so far. It's the best. I mean, it's one of the best games I've ever played. I think there's very few games out there that truly deserve a near perfect score, which is a 10 out of 10. And how a 10 out of 10 game from 10 years ago may have maybe a little rough around the edges now. I think about a game like Arkham City, which is arguably a near perfect game, and how it has even shown its age a little bit, in the past 10-ish years. At the end of the day, this game is not only is better than the first game in every single way, but I can see so many other games that have taken influence from the decision making in this game that will inherently affect your choices in the future.
Yeah.
So it lays the groundwork for RPGs in the future, which is a huge deal, and BioWare should be praised for doing so because they're a pioneer of it. At the end of the day, I got to give this game a 10 out of 10. I can't find hardly any flaws. I mean, nitpicks. No game is perfect. Every game has flaws.
I got a complaint.
At my score?
My complaint is my complaint is I feel like a coward because I gave it a 9. I didn't
You
go
are a
10
coward.
10.
You are a coward. I mean, if you want to redact your score, you can.
No, because on Age of Geek, I rarely give 10s to anything. And we rate on a scale of 1 to 10. Very rarely do I give out 10s. A 9 for me may as well be a 10.
Yeah, I think, it falls into this weird threshold of I could have given a 9.5, but just the clout that is around it and just everything that I experienced and how every single time I booted it up, I wasn't begrudgingly doing it. It took me a month. It took me a month to beat the game. And
yeah, that's a great question to think about. At any point when you were going through your playthrough, did you sit down in front of your console and say, "Oh yeah, I've got to finish that up so I can talk about it later"?
Exactly. No.
I mean, it was. When can I finish up this other stuff I'm doing so I can get back to this?
So I can play it. I'm playing Horizon Zero Dawn for review right now. How good does it hold up in 2020? It's a 2-year-old game. I'm playing Horizon Zero Dawn, and I'm like, yeah, this is cool. The entire time I'm thinking about Mass Effect 2 and how I need to play Mass Effect 2. And I'm like,
that says something.
That speaks volumes. And it's taken this franchise has taken its place as one of my favorite franchises ever so far because of Mass Effect 2. So, I just can't say enough good things about it. There's obviously a few nitpicks, and any game that has a 10 out of 10 is going to have nitpicks to it. Anyone who says that is an idiot. Like, sometimes there's no perfect game. Change my mind. So that's all I have to say about that.
Well
Boom.
said. Said.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So
did you lose me there for a second?
Maybe. It said connection was unstable, so I don't know, but it's okay if I did because we're almost
for a long time. But then it's like it stitched it right back together again, and you finished your thoughts. So.
Okay, well, good. Then we're not gonna curse the Zoom gods. We're gonna wrap up this review in a timely manner ish
before they smite us.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you for taking the time, Ethan, to talk about Mass Effect 2. I'm excited to get into Mass Effect 3. And if there's ever been a point in your during these review processes where you thought I'm just gonna do these few episodes on Game Club, and it'll be whatever it is, you got another thing coming, buddy, because we're not gonna give too much away, ladies and gentlemen, but just stick around because there's exciting things coming, and I don't even think Ethan realizes it yet. So there we go. But Ethan, go ahead and plug your stuff. Where can they find you? Let's put a ribbon on this.
Okay. As I said before, you can hear me on Age of Geek. That's my podcast over there on Podbean, ageofgeek.podbean.com. We do a lot of geek discussions over there. Drive Back the Night and Andromeda Series podcast. You can find that on Podbean as well. I'm on Twitter. Geek_age is that handle. And then Andromeda Pod is the other feed that I've got going there on Twitter as well. I just did a spot on the Sci-Fi Malady podcast. Go check those guys out. They've got a good show over there. And I sat in with them on a discussion of Close Encounters of the Third Kind. 40 years old, or 43 years old, actually, this year. It's an old Spielberg movie, but it's a goodie. So you can hear me over there on Sci-Fi Malady as well.
Very good. Yeah.
I gaslight as a gamer over here on the Game Club. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to have you a part of the club, Ethan. So thank you so much for taking the time.
I have really enjoyed Mass Effect. These first two are great, and like you said, I can't wait to finish the Zoom call so I can get back into Mass Effect 3.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, brother. As always, ladies and gentlemen, you can find us at geeklybiweekly1@gmail.com, but it's better if you just go hit us up on the social media. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for preparing yourselves for a plethora of hot takes and potentially unpopular opinions. We will see you next time. Say goodbye, Ethan.
Adios.